Good morning. Today is Monday, the 25th of May. I just feel like we just did the it's going to be May thing, or May the 5th be with you, but now it's already over. So it's like we just started, but it's already over. Speaking of things that are already over, we are going to talk about the CGS basketball season today, and that's the topic.
It was just 3 weeks ago.
No, it was 2 weeks ago. No, it was... This is releasing on Monday, so it was 2 Sundays ago. Not yesterday, but the previous Sunday.
It's 3 Sundays ago.
So 8 days ago. It was 8 days ago.
25 minus 4 is 21, which is
No, I meant the
weeks.
basketball season ending.
Oh.
Yeah. It was 8 days ago.
Move your laptop this way a little bit.
So we're going to be talking about competition and competitiveness today as a Christian. I think there's a lot of misconceptions with that topic, and whether it's even God-honoring to be competitive. Some may even argue that it's not. And so we'll talk about that. And we have a couple different segments that we're going to go through today, including Call Her Daddy, which is a very famous podcast I learned where like millions of women listen to. And so we'll talk about that podcast and the creator of that podcast because something came out very recently. So we have a lot of things to cover this morning. You are listening to the Dear Church Podcast. Welcome to the Dear Church Podcast, where we exist to fill your ears and your minds with the study of God to see the world as disciples of Christ. Wait, why did you nod your head in the cadence that I was speaking? That was pretty good timing. How did you know?
It's only been 6,000 episodes. How many episodes are we on? 250?
This is 300 something.
300 something?
Yeah, we've been at this for a while. Yeah. But today we have with us myself and Pastor Eugene and Chunsuck and Brian, and we are just ready to go. And we are talking about the CGS Basketball League. It ended 8 days ago. There's not really much to talk about. It was a great season, very competitive. A lot of our CGS brothers were a part of it. It was encouraging to see a lot of our guys step up and play basketball together and have fellowship together. The team that I was on actually lost in the finals, believe it or not. We got there.
Yeah, there's a lot to go over if you go over the tapes and you can
we're not talking about the season, though.
Just pivotal moments where you should have caught a pass under the rim.
I pulled my Achilles.
Yeah, I told
Even
your
NBA stars.
I told your principal that. He's like, I didn't know. I was like, yeah, you didn't see him limp around? He's like, no. I guess he wasn't limping. He's only limping in church.
No, I was hobbling.
To show that
no.
He pulled his Achilles.
No, I was hobbling everywhere. So, yeah, I sit when I teach, and so I think that's why I was healed. I did get healed very quickly, maybe too quickly.
Maybe you didn't pull it.
I absolutely pulled it.
Maybe it was more like a stress anxiety thing.
No. I wasn't stressed on the court. That's where I get free.
So the point guard it wasn't a pass. I heard from the point guard himself that he handed it to you.
So he handed it to me underneath the basket. But to be honest, who does that, first of all?
Someone who thinks that you could make the bucket.
I think it needs to be mentioned that this point guard would normally take shots that he's not supposed to. And with this, I thought he should have taken the shot, but he gave it to me. I fumbled, I pulled my Achilles, and I sat out. So that was my basketball journey, but our team lost in the finals. And something, interesting that Pastor Eugene, you and I were talking about off camera or off the mic was this idea of competition, especially in light of our Christian worldview. Where does competition fit in? On one hand, you have people that won't even shake the opponent's hand after they lose. They'll throw temper tantrums, throw stuff. They'll act in un-Christ-like ways because they've lost. I've even heard people scream and curse and whatnot. On the other hand, we have the participation trophy culture in which winning and losing doesn't really even matter. It's about the journey. It's about the experience. It's about having fun. And I think that there is a distinction. There's a space for hard work, for fun, for the experience. And oftentimes I think Christians are pushed into this boat. Like, you shouldn't care so much about winning and losing because Christ won for us. Just have fun. Just love your neighbor. Just Just do all
Christ
that.
won for us, so who cares about this basketball
I've really
game?
heard this before. We're like, you shouldn't care so much because Christ has already won. What are you so stressed about? But is that all it is, right? Is that what we see in the Bible? Not being competitive, being almost loving. That's kind of how people dress it up now. Where if you're too competitive, you're not really loving your neighbor, and if you're not being too competitive, like you're just enjoying the vibe, you're being loving. So, how should a Christian in our Christian worldview framework, if you will, view competition?
How about we start with the joke? Because we didn't do the joke segment.
Which joke? We don't normally have a joke segment.
We usually start off with the joke segment since last week, so let's continue our tradition.
There was a joke segment last week?
Was
this the long joke?
No. I forgot what. Oh, the snail.
Yeah, the snail was a little.
I don't know why you like that one. That one I didn't really like.
Yeah.
Yeah. Why do French people eat snails?
Escargot.
Yeah, they don't like fast food. But
that's something.
When is it appropriate when you're dating to bring up the filioque? Why are you laughing?
I don't know if couples do that. I don't know if that's like on the agenda for dating.
When is it appropriate when you're dating to bring up the filioque?
I don't know.
The answer is on the third date, which proceeds from both the first and second date.
Oh, that's pretty good.
I don't know if I like that one, but it is pretty relevant to us.
It is very relevant. I don't know if it's good in quality, but I think it's just
relevance in context.
Yeah. You know who would like this joke? Brian would like this joke. I bet
Brian would like this joke. Here, I'll give you a joke, Brian. Horse walks into a bar. Okay?
Okay.
And the bartender goes, "Would you like a drink?"
Okay.
And the horse goes, "No, I don't think." And poof, the horse disappears.
Okay.
And this is a Descartes joke. The reason why I say it's a
what's the cards?
Descartes. René Descartes. René Descartes.
First of all, when did René become a man name?
So
that's the question.
You might be asking why you didn't mention it was a Descartes joke before, but that would have put Descartes before the horse.
Oh. I don't know who this guy is, but Descartes.
You don't know René Descartes?
I know he thinks a lot. He's like, what is his name? Confucius.
He's the one that said, "I think, therefore I am."
Yeah, Confucius. He's always thinking. Well, he's always
not
saying.
Confucius.
Confucius say.
Confucius is always saying stuff.
He's always saying something. The dude
He's
never
saying,
stops
"I
yapping,
say this."
to be honest with you.
Yeah, I have spoken.
But you know what I learned this week, actually, now that we're in this realm of jokes? I learned what it means when someone says, you can't have your cake and eat it.
Because you wouldn't have your cake then.
Yes, that's true. So I didn't know what that idiom meant because I was discussing with somebody like different idioms, and I was like, I don't understand why. Like,
you were discussing it with a student, I bet.
No, with a non-student. So you can't have your cake and eat it is one that I learned about. The other one is you've made your bed, go sleep in it.
Yeah.
Yeah, those two I learned. And then dime in a dozen, I learned. So these are all idioms that I was. Did I ever tell you I was a ESL student? So I didn't learn like that.
Yeah, you're from Korea.
Up. Yeah.
Yeah. So you didn't even know about George Washington.
I got a perfect score on the TOEFL though.
I think it's TOEFL.
Depends on where you come from.
I see.
I think it's TOEFL for some.
TOEFL.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. See, I don't even know how to do it in Korean.
Yeah, it depends on where you're from, I think. Yeah.
I think they say the F now in Korea.
That sound is not familiar to us as Koreans, I think. Okay. There's no, because we have the P sound and the B sound, but we don't have the F sound.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's.
So that was a good segment.
So we can't say Friday.
How do you say it?
Friday. So today we are talking about competition and competitiveness. So I guess the question remains, as a Christian, how are we supposed to view this? Is it wrong for a Christian to be, I guess, overly competitive? And what does that even look like?
Oh yeah. I mean, we should define competition.
Yep.
What is competition?
That's when you compete.
You know what happens when you use the same word to define the word, right?
I don't know what happens.
Yeah. You go straight to...
It's broadly defined, if I may say so, as a rivalry between two or more parties striving for a common exclusive goal that cannot be shared.
Cannot be shared.
No, you cannot share this goal.
Interesting.
Nope. You can't be first place at the same time. Unless you're part of a team.
Unless you are going for the participation trophy.
Right. But that's not even that's not a goal. So I don't, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think everybody knows what competition is. Competition in the Bible, because we'll tackle it from the biblical worldview. Hopefully, we could get there, and then I could give you some of my personal thoughts, which you could agree or disagree with. But let's start with the broad, general biblical view. In the Bible, competition isn't inherently good or evil. Okay. It is a reality, however, that will reveal the human heart. In competition, I get to see who you are. And this is usually for men, but it can apply to women in many cases, which we can talk about. But when we talk about competition revealing character and human heart, we usually apply that to men more. And we can talk about why.
Can I just even ask maybe a more basic question than that? Where does competition even come from? Because the first time that I could think of two people competing for something, in a sense, is Cain and Abel, in a sense.
There it is. That's the first time.
That's the first time, right? And that ends in murder, obviously. And that competition was not good in the sense of Cain wanted what Abel had, and he was upset that he couldn't have what Abel had.
Should he have strove to get what Abel had, though?
But is that envy or covetousness, though?
Yeah.
So isn't then competition at its root? Wouldn't some people say it's bad because you're coveting or you're envying something?
No, the other person doesn't have it yet, so you're not necessarily coveting.
I see.
The prize wasn't given out yet, so you're not really coveting necessarily when you compete, okay?
I see.
So, I know you talked about basketball, but it's a very, very minor example or illustration, very small. The fact that people get worked up over basketball shows me a lot of things, to be honest. Shows me how much of a competitive drive we have that we don't know how to release, so we'll release it in like a, intramural league or a church league, or
I get worked up.
Yeah, what do you call those? Like, what are those clubs that you have?
Intramurals.
It's not like actual high school sports, but club sports, right?
Adult leagues.
Right?
Recs.
Rec leagues, yeah. And so a bunch of people in high school go into their rec leagues, and then they play their sports. Mm-hmm. And so I really wanted to go into the heart of the matter. And when people think about competition, what do you normally think about? You think about whether you win or lose. Yes?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I wanted to say that this is not probably good. Okay, so if you just think about winning or losing, you probably don't know how to compete well. Because if you fear losing, that fear is going to drive you. So you play in fear, which is not good. First John talks about, perfect love casts out all fear, fear of punishment, just fear. But what about the drive to win? The drive to win actually can lead to fear too, because you don't want to lose, yes, because that's the opposite thing. You don't want to be a failure. And the drive to win can overtake every other drive that you should have in competition. You just want to win, which then would produce a lot of sins.
So,
as long as you win, who cares if I foul? It's part of the game.
So that kind of thing. I think it could be a little confusing. Well, first of all, I don't know if that was a dig. I don't foul people.
Oh, I wasn't talking about you. I'm just saying most people think fouling is a part of the game.
It is.
Whereas fouling is a penalty that's been incurred or has been created for you to incur because you don't. The spirit of the game is not to foul, but then it's now become a part of the game where you're like, it's a part of the game. We have to account for it, And instead of saying this is an evil that we have to account for, now
Right.
we're saying this is a part of the game, which is also good. We should use this to our advantage. That makes sense, yeah?
Yeah. So my question though is, and I know we're kind of jumping all over the place here, like a what are they called? Mexican jumping bean. But
Yeah, that's exactly what they're called.
yeah.
You know why they're called that?
No.
Because when you put it on the
Is this
pan,
an idiom
it
or
jumps.
something? Oh.
No,
Okay.
not really.
So I guess my question is, you talked about this striving to win, also like versus this fear of losing, and how both of these taken to its extremes could be bad.
No, just both of them taken at all is bad. If you think about winning or losing in competition, I'm telling you, it's going to lead to bad.
But then what? Then where does this even come from? Like,
This is that's why this is such an intriguing conversational topic that
So
I
where do
wanted to
we, like-
engage with you, right? So look. If you think when you're going into the game and you're like, I just don't want to lose, I just don't want to lose, I just want to lose, that fear, that drive will actually not benefit you
Okay.
in the long run.
Okay.
And that's my point. The point is, and if you just want to win, you just want to win, you just want to win, no matter what, that drive to win, that's also fear. Maybe you don't see it as much, but as evidently as losing, but it is destructive. So, if your drive to win is unchecked, and it is, potentially fear-inducing, you lose the point of what you can gain through competition.
if that's the case, then do you just go into a game thinking I'm very, very neutral today?
No, see, that's also wrong.
So then, do you not play games? Like what? So how do you do this then? Like if I walk into a basketball game, I'm always going to be thinking I would like to win.
Yeah,
I don't want to lose the game because that's not like what? Why would I play then?
Yeah, we should. That's why we should examine. I think men at a certain point in their life, hopefully younger the better. And the fact that you're listening to this and you might be like, what are you talking about? Of course you play to win. Why else would you play? Or of course you play so you don't lose. Why would you want to be a loser? Just the fact that we're talking about that shows us how far we have come to understanding what competition is and why we ought to examine why we compete and how we compete. Because the Bible, again, going back to the Bible, when we go to Cain and Abel,
Right.
it doesn't outright condemn or romanticize the competition itself. It just says this is what it was. And then post competition, you saw that envy and rivalry, and then eventually murder come up because Cain did not like losing, in a sense, if we could put it that way.
Right. Okay, so if that's the case, then with what mindset do I walk into a competitive context?
So let's talk about some goods and some bads that competition brings, and
Okay.
hopefully it can maybe forge for us a new way of seeing competition, especially in light of what the Bible shows us.
Yeah.
And so one of the key verses that we can hinge our podcast on is from Proverbs chapter 27:17.
Proverbs chapter 27, verse 17 reads, "Iron sharpens iron, and one man sharpens another."
So iron does sharpen iron. Iron can break another iron, I suppose, but as iron sharpens iron, okay?
Yeah.
Men are supposed to sharpen each other.
Right.
When you sharpen each other, what are you doing? You remove the dullnesses, you expose perhaps even weaknesses, and you actually get a sharper edge or a keener edge, right? So you get one of these things. Christians should compete, but they should compete in a healthy manner. And this is why maybe I am jumping around. This is why I really can't take Christian enclaves, I don't care what you call it, that don't know how to compete. They just kind of stay in their own enclave. Maybe not all of them are like that, but Christians should apply it to healthy competition. We should want competition, but we should want a healthy version of it. The reason why I like listening to how our guys in our church react to, let's say, even the smaller events that we have, like golf or basketball, is because I want to see how they see competition. I'm not there necessarily to lecture, but I got to tell you, maybe like 99.99% of the people don't really see it the way I just explained it. where you're not there to win or lose necessarily. And that's not necessarily. Yeah, there's a goal in mind. There is, a prize to be had. But let's say there's a golf outing. I don't know, in June sometime. Let's just say June 27 or something like that.
Perhaps.
And let's say there's this golf outing, and on June 27th of, let's just pick a year, 2026, that you could sign up for at cgsnj.org. Let's just say that. Anyway, let's just say, for example, there is one, and there are some prizes to be had. And you think that is the ultimate goal. The prize to be had at the end of the golf tournament, or the trophy to be had at the end of a season. That's the only thing to be had. I think that's how people think, and that's what forms your character, that forms the mission that you have, that forms your vision, like how you look to the future. It forms everything, okay? It forms how you play, how you react, all that stuff. But let's say there's a greater prize there. There's something greater to be attained than maybe even a trophy. And if that's the case, then the trophy, while it being something to, to put in your whole order of things, that's not the first thing, okay?
So the purpose of competition, you're saying, is not necessarily to win or lose, but it is to sharpen one another.
The purpose is to, I think Kobe Bryant said, he's not even Christian. Kobe Bryant said it, and I don't think he really even realized it. It's like, where do you get your drive for? I forgot exactly what it is that he says. So I'm going to really butcher paraphrasing this. But he goes, you don't want the fear of losing, but you don't want that, that blindness of just simply winning. It's, and he's like thinking, you get to know more about yourself. That's why he plays. And then people are like, okay.
That's interesting that you would say that, because Kobe Bryant is probably the example of the most competitive person on the planet.
Exactly. And yet, what drove him wasn't the fear of losing or the drive, the drive of winning. It was and then we'll say self-discovery. That's basically what he was saying. Was he a Buddhist?
No.
I don't think so.
I just made that up, sorry.
Yeah. So it's for self-discovery.
Okay.
And I think that's what competition does. And the reason why I personally love competition, let's say, another example, just random example. Let's say I get this machine that measures your grip strength.
Okay.
Right? And when you press down on it, it gives you how many pounds of pressure you can hold this thing in. So it'll give you 90 pounds per, of force or newtons, right? Or it could give you 100 or 117.
Okay.
Let's say someone got 117.
Okay.
Which is a lot. That's a lot.
It's a good amount. It's a good
that's
number of
like an
newtons.
impressive amount.
A lot of newtons.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I want to be able to do that.
Okay.
So in some ways, I want to beat you.
Okay.
Right? But then that also, in all of that, the feeling when I get when someone else gets 117 and it's my turn to grip it, you discover yourself.
So you're saying the whole point of that competition, let's say even this grip thing, would be to strengthen your grip, not necessarily simply to win, but to strengthen your grip so that you can win, and so you're sharpened in that manner.
No, that's not what I'm saying. So
that's not what you're saying. No,
yeah,
that's not.
see, this is such a foreign concept to so many of us. I'm going to keep on saying it because this is what I mean by self-discovery. You discover your limits in every way. Spiritually, physically, mentally, you discover your limits. You discover how you feel when someone else gets 117, and it's then your turn to do it. Or how you feel when you could get 150 and the guy next to you gets 117. Again, random example. And so first of all, you get to discover your limits in all the dimensions of your life. You also get to discover your resilience in how you can continue to press forward even when you are tired, or when your Achilles is stretched, and either you could say, "My Achilles is stretched. I need to warm it up so I could get back in," or be like, "I'm done. I think I pulled it."
I did that.
Something like that, right? You see the level of your resilience in competition.
I'm resilient.
Number 3, you get to see how much you truly do rely on God in all the things that you do, especially when you're out there in the battlefield. I'm not talking necessarily about basketball, but yes, basketball, from the small to the great. What is your reliance on God? Or is God not even in the picture? Because once it comes down to it, the only way God is going to be in the picture is when you're in the foxhole.
Can I ask you 2 questions real quick? Okay, number 1. Okay, this is more specific.
I didn't finish, but yeah, go ahead.
It's because some of the stuff that you're saying, I just want to understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
I lost my train of thought. There's a lot of thoughts. There's a lot of trains going on.
So ultimately, what we're going to say is that when you compete, what's revealed is your true character when it's under pressure.
Okay.
Well, I shouldn't say ultimately. It's one of the things I should say.
Okay.
But it is a main thing. So you discover limits. You see where your resilience is.
So you discover more
how much you rely on God.
Of yourself.
It is self-discovery. So that's what I'm putting in self-discovery, all these things.
Okay, so competition is...
not a Buddhist understanding of self-discovery.
So it's for the purpose of self-discovery. But okay, so where does wins and losses come in then?
It's part of the self-discovery because you need wins and losses to apply pressure. Something needs to be on the line, doesn't it?
So if I'm walking into a basketball game, using the same example, the proper attitude that I should be having isn't necessarily, hey, I want to win or I want to lose, but it's to discover myself?
Yeah, absolutely.
Like today, I want to discover myself.
I need to know more about where I am, what weaknesses are going to be exposed under this pressure, how to sharpen myself, how to cover those weaknesses well, how to grow, how to mature. Oh yeah, and then it will be exposed under pressure. Competition gives you that pressure.
But how do you even?
I'll give you an example. So this is a real conversation I had with a brother.
Okay.
And I think he does listen to this podcast too. So I said, I think you could win. And I told him if it were up to me to pick my basketball team, you'd probably go in as a first draft pick for me. And he said, no, my team wasn't that good. I think his team lost to your team in the playoffs because one of your team members scored that winning layup. Okay.
Yeah.
And so, he's like, we didn't do it. Well, so I started to ask him questions. And I said, is it your priority to make sure everybody gets playing time and everybody gets a chance to shoot? They get to play, a good amount where they feel like, oh, it's worth it for me to play in this church league because I get to shoot a few times.
And they had to pay money too, so.
Yeah, they had to pay money for it.
Yeah.
And they're like, yeah, that's very important. See, for me, that's not important. So for me, it's not important. So you might be thinking, well, then winning is important then, isn't it? It's like, no, that's not important. So then now you're like, I'm not saying you, but now someone might be like, I'm so confused, right? Why is it not important that everybody get playing time and everybody gets a chance to shoot? Because when you play a ball game, my purpose then, let's say if I was coach or team captain, would be, my purpose is to tell the team, this is your role. And your role might not be shooting. So this particular brother, he had like 20-something rebounds in that game or whatever it was, and like double-digit points, blah, blah, blah.
He's very low double-digit though, I think.
What?
I'm just giving you the facts. I'm not saying anything about it.
That's my. So I said I looked at your numbers and I said you shouldn't necessarily be getting because rebounding is a very very big important part of the game.
Right.
But your role is maybe to get rebounds in some of the putbacks, right? But your main role is to get a 90% chance of scoring whenever you get the ball.
Okay.
Which your opponent's team, when they matched you up, that person could not defend you, right? There's no way this person could defend him, right? He's that much better than his opponent, right? The defender that he had. You agree?
I didn't defend him.
Yeah, but you agree.
It was Sung.
But you agree.
No. I mean, he's good. He's not LeBron.
I say he has a 90% chance of making the bucket.
Sure.
Okay, so
Yeah.
you don't want to spend all that energy, blah blah blah. Again, that's all self-discovery. My point is a self-discovery, and my point is in giving you this minutia, whether you agree or not, is you start to discover, and then you push forward. And then one of the things that I wanted to push or put out there is, if you believe your team's purpose is to make sure everybody gets playing time, everybody gets a chance to shoot, then you should take winning off the table. Winning is not something that you ought to be thinking about. It should be make sure everybody gets a chance to shoot, even if they shoot
it's a
0 or
different
13.
goal. It's a different goal.
It's a different goal.
Okay,
So if you
okay.
achieve that goal, why are you so unhappy? Because you believe that you should have won, right? So if you believe that you should have won, what's more important? Then if winning is one of the goals there, then it should be, again, this is a whole self-discovery part, everybody should know their roles. You know, if you're a rebounder, that's your goal. You know, if you're Dennis Rodman, you're not thinking, I should have 30 field goal attempts today.
Right.
Absolutely untrue. If you're Dennis Rodman, I don't know if you know who Dennis Rodman is.
Yeah, I know him. Number 91 on the Chicago Bulls. Yep.
If you're someone like playing the role of a rebounder, you're a forward and you're going to rebound the ball, that's what your goal should be. But everybody, when they play basketball, they believe they should grab the ball and at least make 1 or 2 buckets so that they could feel good about themselves, because that's how they think they could participate. I participated in my team's play because I made a few points.
Okay.
And I'm telling you, that's actually not the goal of basketball. The goal of basketball, team play, isn't for every single person to score 3 or 4 points. It's really not. It's to make sure that the whole team conducively together actually becomes this machine where the team itself scores more points than the other team, right?
Okay.
Not one person or 5 people, whatever
The
it is.
team collectively.
Yeah, that's the point. That collectively, what you want to do is you want to score more points than others. So you use math, you use all this other stuff. So, you know, I gave him some math. I said, you know, if you, let's say, and this is being generous, of course. I said, let's say your team only shoots 2s, and you have an 80% chance of converting those field goals from inside, let's say, the paint, because you're so good at the paint, right? Inside the paint. Let's say you have an 80% chance. You miss 1 out of 5 or something like that.
Okay.
And this other team, they shoot like a crazy amount of 3s, but that's all they do. All they could do is shoot 3s, and they have a 50% chance of making it, which is also generous because it's never 50. It's always less than 50.
50 is
very generous.
Is
right?
high.
Even though I am that generous, who's going to win? And you know, from math, you know, points per possession, if you do 80% at 2 points, it's 1.6 points per possession.
I believe you, yeah.
Three pointers at 50% is 1.5, right? So who's going to win? The people who could always
1.6.
convert at 80% under the basket, which is what you want to create if you have a big man that dominates, okay? And then, you gotta have a coach or...
I've never thought about this mathematically, to be honest with you.
Everything is math to me, okay?
Yeah.
So everything's math. You got to know your team. First of all, you have to know your team and have to sharpen that team, okay?
Okay.
Because everybody has gifts. You got to sharpen the team. And under pressure, you see how they play. Because let's say under pressure, the other team, let's say a team that scores only 3s, gets like 6 3s in a row. Under pressure, you're going to be like, oh, we got to shoot some 3s. You play a little more messy, blah, blah, blah. No, but you got to keep to the math. Stick to the math, because the points per possession will eventually even out, especially with 20-minute halves.
Yeah.
It eventually evens out, even if you have a streak once or twice here.
Yeah.
And usually, you'll always see these 3-pointers get like a 20-something, 30-something at most, conversion rate, okay? So you do the math, you tell the team, this is the goal. See, that's different than, let's have everyone shoot. We're going to try our best and, put some hustle into it. It's different, right? So that's my point. The competition putting pressure gives you that revelation of self-discovery, meaning what you need to do.
So if I can summarize what you're saying, and I hope I'm right this time because I've been wrong so far. If I can summarize what you're saying is that competition and the way that wins and losses fit into this idea of competition is it puts fire under your butt and makes whatever you're doing actually important. right? Because you want to win. And so this competition with its wins and losses within it is what leads you to self-discovery for the purpose of self-discovery.
I think ultimately, this is what Kobe Bryant said too. Ultimately, what he wanted to do was he wanted to discover himself more. He wanted to know more about himself. I think it was the words that he used in this interview. I get to know more about myself. And what competition does, it forces self-knowledge. And if you don't understand that, then you've wasted that competition. You're just angry or bitter, or you blame someone else. You've never seen Kobe Bryant, a great competitor, by the way, ever blame someone else for, let's say, a loss. He didn't go, if my team played better, if I moved to another team, because we understand for whatever reason, the person watching, this all-star basketball player play, they understand, oh, that greatness comes not from blaming someone else for their loss, but really discovering themselves so they can reach a new plane, a higher plane, where you discover your limits and then you break through that barrier. And so the New Testament also uses a ton of athletic imagery, does it not?
Yeah, Paul.
Paul especially does. And I have no idea if Paul is athletic or not. He may not have been, but he understood the games.
He was a tent maker, though, so I'm sure his forearms were,
Yeah, could be. Forearms, grip strength is a lot.
His grip would have been nice.
We'll talk about 1 Corinthians 9, 24 to 27.
Do you not know that in a race all the runners run, but only one receives the prize? So run that you may obtain it. Every athlete exercises self-control in all things. They do it to receive a perishable wreath, but we an imperishable. So I do not run aimlessly. I do not box as one beating the air, but I discipline my body and keep it under control, lest after preaching to others, I myself should be disqualified.
There's so much in there that we can kind of meditate on. I'm just going to take one or two aspects from it. But again, there's a lot that you can meditate on. So when you run because you see that there is only one person that's going to get the ultimate prize, right? That's how you have to run.
That's the goal.
The goal is there.
The point of the competition. Not the point, but the point.
See?
Not the point. I'm not saying like the actual point, but like...
But you run to get the prize.
Yes.
That's exactly what Paul just literally said. You run. So run as to get the prize. So
similar.
Now you are training. You are competing. He beats his body.
Yep.
He trains his body so that he wouldn't be disqualified. So that after preaching to others, he himself wouldn't be disqualified, meaning he wouldn't disqualify himself out of the race that he was given. Okay? And, Philippians 3 talks about something similar, to forget what's behind, but strain towards what is ahead, to win the prize, all right? 2 Timothy chapter 2 and chapter 4, you have to compete according to the rules, right? And you have to do all these things. So there's a lot of imagery that Paul uses, and these passages, what they're really doing is they're showing us the kind of drive that we should have. And is the drive for self-glory? The answer is no. But the drive is for disciplined growth and the ultimate reward that would be from God.
And it seems like ultimately the goal will be to glorify God, right? Because he says he does it so that he also doesn't become disqualified. And so ultimately to glorify God through his preaching.
Yeah. And so what does competition do then? That pressure forges your character. Well, that's a great movie. I think one of the best movies. It is the best time loop movie.
Inside Out.
The Edge of Tomorrow, right?
Oh, Tom Cruise.
We talked about it.
Emily Blunt.
And, there's that saying that the captain or whatever, lieutenant or whatever that guy said, we are forged in the crucible of the fire, blah, blah, blah. And he says that every time he sees Tom Cruise. And it's showing us the truth that, when you are put into the fire, when you are put under pressure, your character is not only revealed, but it can be forged, right? So not only does it reveal who you are, meaning your strengths, your idols, your fears, it actually forges you so that you can become who you need to be in Christ, okay?
Okay.
And so it really does... So the whole competition thing really does mirror the parable of talents, and which is something that I truly enjoy. I truly enjoy all the parables, and I was thinking maybe we should talk about the parable of the talents or the minas in Luke, right? Luke 19, but Matthew 25 when he talks about the parable of the talents.
You know what's called the money bags in the NIV? I don't know that.
Yeah, because they didn't want people confused with
Like your talent,
gifts
like
or
a mad
talents.
talent.
Yeah,
It's called the parable of the money bags.
yeah. And so one person gets 5, and he strives, and he gets 5 more. Other person gets 2, he strives, he gets 2 more.
Okay.
Who won? They both won. The point is they both won, right? Because the 5 got 5 more, but the 2 got 2 more.
Yeah.
He didn't go, you didn't get as much as the 5, and the 2 didn't go, I wish you gave me 5. None of that stuff. So it's not competition where you have envy about what the other person has. It's competition so that you actually forge your character into a place where it's multiplied and you glorify God through your multiplication. The worst thing is to bury it, because the guy who buried it is all envious. Like, you gave these other guys, I knew you're terrible. You were like this
hard master.
really harsh guy. Yeah. That's a terrible place to be, right? And so, yeah, competition can be used negatively in that sense. I'm trying to show you that actually it's neither good or, in itself, it's neither good or bad. It's like the forging that happens. Either you can blame others and then go to another team and try to win a ring in another team and fail, and then go to another team and then fail, and then go to another team and then fail, always blaming other people. Or you could stick at one team and really get good and then win like 6 rings. I'm not referring to anything in particular, just random example.
Kevin Durant.
No.
So I understand that there is a self-discovery. That's the goal. But what, like, I guess the difficulty that I'm having is, how do I then apply this to every competition that I'm a part of, right? Basketball is just one example. Someone might say even video games. Someone might say competing with somebody else for a position, for a raise, for a promotion. Someone might say competing, I don't know, in a marathon, whatever it is, like, or to be the best preacher, whatever it is. Like, how do you go into a basketball game? How do you go into
there's two things that people think that are, opposites of each other, but actually they're you want both. You need both. They need to be put into the same plane, which is physical and spiritual, which is what competition should do. And I really wanted to get into people and examples like David facing Goliath, or Jacob wrestling the angel.
Yeah.
People just don't understand it. What's the whole point of wrestling an angel if you know you can't win anyway? The point was Jacob wrestled the angel, something you can't do, because you're like, I'm not going to win anyway. What's the point of wrestling? Exactly. That's why you'll never be like Jacob. Never. You could have the name Jacob, but you'll never be like the Jacob in the Bible. But what stepping into the challenge will do is it will lead to transformation, and it will lead to a deeper dependence on God. You want both. You want transformation in your life. You want that stretching, that maturity, that growth, all that stuff, okay? The self-discovery, finding out your weaknesses, your idols, all that stuff. And it should bring you into a deeper dependence on God. If it doesn't, then I would say reevaluate why you are, really wanting to compete for this anyway, okay? So I'll say this much, because I really wanted to get into it, but maybe we could save that for another time. If we look at, and I talk about this with the staff a lot, maybe I haven't talked about it in the podcast. There are a group of people that I really am intrigued by, and that's David's mighty men. Mm-hmm. David's mighty men were absolutely amazing, right? And so I'll just take one. I had a lot, but I'll just take one, okay? There's this guy named Shammah.
Shammah?
Like the song Shammah, Shammah, anyway.
What song is that?
I don't know. I think it's a Chinese song. Is it a Chinese song, Brian?
That just sounds like sounds.
Anyway. He was the son of Agi the Hamorite, right? Anyway, he was one of the 3, the elite inner circle of David's mightiest men, okay? And he is shown to us in 2 Samuel chapter 23. And if you read about Shammah, actually, why don't you read it? 2 Samuel chapter 23, 11 and 12. It's just 2 verses, and I'll show you why this is such an amazing thing.
2 Samuel chapter 23, verses 11 to 12 reads, and next to him was Shammah. Is that how? I feel like it's the wrong pronunciation.
What? Spell it.
Shammah. Shammah. Shammah.
If it was just one M, Shammah.
Yeah.
But if there's 2 M's, it's Shammah.
Shammah. The son of Agi the Hararite. The Philistines gathered together at Lehi, not the college. This is Lehi, Lehi, where there was a plot of ground full of lentils, and the men fled from the Philistines. But he took his stand in the midst of the plot and defended it and struck down the Philistines, and the Lord worked a great victory.
So all these guys, they were going after, I guess, the Israelites. They were there at Lehi.
Yeah, lentils were plentiful there.
A lot of lentils. I think that
a lot of them.
See, these are meaningful things.
Yeah.
So these aren't. I don't believe you should just dismiss it. Like, it's just added detail. The men fled from the Philistines. They didn't want to lose. They're like, we might lose, we might die. I'm not sure if we could win. Maybe they could have won, but they weren't sure. Maybe they definitely thought they would die. Maybe they were really outnumbered because they surrounded this plot, right?
Okay.
And so when they go, here comes this guy, Shammah.
Yeah.
And everyone else ran in fear, he stood. So everyone else is afraid, he stood, and he did not run. He refused to run. He refused numbers or dangers to dictate the actions that he would have. So the fear of losing actually didn't make him run away, right?
Okay.
So we could say the fear of losing, if it was there, it didn't dictate his actions. Okay?
Okay.
And secondly, the more amazing thing is this is what people think, like, this is not worth dying over. This is just a bunch of peas, lentils, right?
So wait, but so you think that the reason why the lentils was mentioned was because he was defending the lentils? Would he work for Kava or something? He defended the lentils.
Yeah. Would he work for Kava or something? Right? That's exactly what other people said. Everybody's like, well, I'm not going to die for Kava or something, right? And so they all ran except for this guy.
Okay.
He defended something so seemingly ordinary. There was no glamour involved. There was no palace behind him. It wasn't a strategic place. It was just a humble plant of crops. That's the point. But he treated it like this is worth fighting for. Why? Because this was God's. This was God's land. This was a land that belonged to him through God's promise. Even if it was ordinary, even if it was small, he took it seriously. And I think that's something that we kind of don't think about. Are you willing to die for the ordinary and the mundane? And people will say, no, I'm only going to die when something really big comes along. Epic. That's when I'll face Goliath and I'll do it. It's like, don't you even know that David, before he faced Goliath, fought lions and bears and fended them off from the sheep, right? Or killed them. So when the time came for Goliath, he's like, I could take on this brute. This uncircumcised Philistine who's calling us out, right? And so what are the ordinary things that we have been called to? The plot of lentils that may seem so ordinary, but they're so important because it's what God has given us to protect, like family, our church, the duties that we have, especially if you're a man, you have a duty that you've been called to protect your family, right? The daily calling that we have when we wake up, there is a mission for that day. You know, we have a 9 to 5, or we have to do this. Well, we have to provide for God's people if you're a leader, things like that. And the other thing that we see here is at the end it says the Lord worked a great victory. Mm-hmm. It's God. That's what's emphasized. God worked a great victory to Shammah's predicament. Shammah became the instrument that God used because God is the source of that victory. So when others abandon, and then you see all these people take, others can abandon it. Pea field's not worth it. Wives, you're not worth it. I could get another wife. A daughter is not worth it. I could get another daughter. Something like that. Maybe that's what you're seeing. How terrible is it that I can't pay for food? I need to sell my daughter into slavery. I saw an article like that. But that's not what we are to do as Christians. As hard as things get, it could get incredibly difficult. Your job as a father and a husband is to protect these very, very special things. This lentil field is not just something simply ordinary. It's special because God has given it to you to protect. And that pressure goes on Shammah, and he shines in under that pressure. The reason why I love the David's Mighty Men is because this is just one of many stories. And I want to go back. What really is intriguing is, why are David's mighty men mighty? Because they did all these mighty feats. Yes, but how did they come to do these mighty feats? It's through the ordinary and the incredible pressure that was put on them in the ordinary. And that made them extraordinary. So when David started off, and you know how he was fleeing from Saul, we all did 1 Samuel together in our church. David was just running from place to place, city to city, cave to cave, and things like that. And even when he saw Saul relieve himself in a cave, he didn't kill him. He just took off a little sliver of his robe to show you, I could have easily killed you, but I didn't, right? Because I believe that you are protected by God. This is what I honestly believe. These guys were just ordinary guys. Maybe they had some talent above the ordinary, perhaps, but I think for the most part, they're just dudes. They are dudes, but they understood the mission. My mission is to serve God, and this is God's anointed servant, David, and I will serve him. And they went through so much pressure. They went through so much competition, if I may, against the Philistines, because God used the Philistines against them, and they would stand above, over the Philistines. There would be so much pressure that, to cite a cliche, that's when they became diamonds, in a sense. There was so much pressure, that's when they started to shine. And I think that's what we're missing. When we think of competition, we just think it's about the goal, blah, blah, blah. But we don't understand the pressure is what's going to forge us and make us. And that's the point. That's what we're lifting up to God. We're lifting up to God ourselves as we are forging our character. That's why I think it's important, going back to understanding, it's not simply understanding the simple mechanics of the game, but the character that's involved in playing the game. So if I'm fouling, I understand that, I'm going to try to stop him the best I can. I'm not going to foul him on purpose to try to hurt the guy, because that's not the spirit of the game. That's not the spirit of the game, right? The spirit of the game is, if I go too far because I can't control myself, I'll get a penalty attached to me. And I get it that they have to shoot. And then maybe if there's 10 seconds left, we have to purposely foul, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And all this stuff happens. It's like, you just don't know the game. No. I'm talking about the spirit of the game, because what's most important is you get forged in that competition. If you go away with the W, and your character becomes more debased, then what's the point of the W? What's the point of the trophy when your character just got weaker? Because you're never going to win again. That W is going to be more and more elusive as time goes on, because you'll age, you'll drop out. All you will care about is maybe numbers now, and you want to play the game for numbers or something like that, right? And, you just care about, let's say, whatever points or rebounds or assists that you put on the scoreboard. That's not the point of the game, right? That's not the point of the game. But because you can't even deliver W's, that's what you care about. At least I got, 22 points and 12 rebounds. Well, I don't know what else my team was doing. That's what you're going to say, but your team lost. Like, even if you were chasing W's, it's going to go down to that. And it's going to go down further and further and further, and then eventually you're going to be like, I'm too old for this, blah, blah, blah. However, that's what I'm saying. We'll go back to this basketball illustration. If you know your role, that's different. If you know your role, it's a different game, and you play that role to perfection. And you go, this is the ordinary. I'm going to do this well. And when the time comes, you get that rebound that was pivotal to the game. You get that, that pick that you needed to do that's pivotal to the game. You do the role that's pivotal to that specific scenario that you're in. Shammah was that guy. He didn't just all of a sudden go and defend a lentil field. But by the way, there's all these things. If it's a lentil field, it's completely open. That means he would have been surrounded 360 and he killed everybody. He wasn't like not in a crevice or a canyon where they would have come in one by one. He just killed them all. That's how amazing this story is, right? Wouldn't you like normally go back and then try to, make sure that you can face one by one people like in 300 in Thermopylae and things like that? The dude just killed them all in a broad field, a lentil field, right?
Yeah.
And so these are some amazing feats that we get to see because they understood that what you have been tasked with, if it's ordinary, you do everything you can to complete that task well, because what you really are doing is you're becoming forged, you're becoming better. But I'm afraid that if you only see competition for the W's or the fear of an L, what you are missing out is the forging, which is the point of the competition. And you will never, even the W's and the fear of L's, they'll be even more elusive to you as time goes on. You'll get less W's and you get more L's. And that fear will work you into a place where you'll just be a bumbling idiot. You won't know what to do. Eventually, you'll quit the game. You'll say, I'm too old, whatever it is, right? You'll do whatever it is because you just can't do it anymore because this is not the game for you. Or you'll say something like that. I gotta pick up golf. I'm not talking about myself. I'm just saying in general because
Right.
I have picked up golf.
No, I think that's helpful for us to know and to think about because I don't know if we really view competition like that. I think it's always been the extremes of do I care about winning or losing? And then when you get to this place of, hey, maybe I shouldn't care so much about winning or losing, it's then about, hey, do I give everyone a chance to play? Do I give everyone equal minutes? Do I make sure we have a good time? Is that the goal of competition?
There's so much more that I would love to talk about, perhaps more, but there's some observations. Every time we see a great competitor, there are observations that we are not to miss. So if you see a great competitor, you'll see courage, but you'll also see resourcefulness. You'll see loyalty. You'll see God-honoring valor. You'll see all these things that happen. So whether we study Shammah or is it Eleazar, the other guy, right? Who's the other one of the three?
Joab?
Bashabeth.
I thought Joab was one of the three. No?
No, he was a leader of the 30. Anyway, yeah, but even the 30 are pretty great, right? That's why I kept on saying Uriah the Hittite wasn't just a nobody.
No.
He was one of the great men.
He knew what he was doing.
He knew exactly
He knew what
he
was being done.
He knew. That's why I'm firmly convinced that he knew you're in enough battles, you have enough experience, you know everything.
Yep.
And you know what's going around you. Maybe if it's your first time in battle, like, oh, I don't know what's on my
I guess we
six.
should be this close to the wall.
Yeah, or I don't know. I know, but if you're that experienced, you know what's on your six.
Yeah.
You know what's everywhere. You know 360. You have eyes in the back of your head because you're that experienced.
You said the six, Iceman. Gotcha.
Yeah, and so there's creativeness, ingenuity, resourcefulness. All these things show up, and then you're forced to grow or die. Those things like under pressure, and then you'll see all these diamonds kind of emerge from all that. That's what I'm saying. David's mighty men weren't just all of a sudden these great warriors from the start. They were a ragtag group of men who decided to follow David, and through all these circumstances, you saw, again, the Lord worked a mighty deed. God would work in them these mighty things, and they would become mightier as a result. And now they are forever known as David's mighty men, right?
Yeah.
And so I would say in competition, if we're going to walk away, we're not going to go to this topic again. And I would say when you look at competition, I hope that through this, you will see competition in a new light, in a light that is more proper. And then you will see that forging your character is probably everything, because in the end, that's what you're lifting up to God.
Thank you for that. I think that's a great way to end the segment and a great thing for us to continue to think about. We're going to quickly go into our media and culture segment, which is new. And so the way that we want to do our podcast in the future is have a couple different segments that we'll go through together week by week, and because there's a lot of things to cover. And I thought having a current event segment, a media and culture segment, a Q&A segment would be good for us as we move forward. And so for our media and culture segment today, We are talking about a woman by the name of Alex Cooper. She is the host of a podcast called Call Her Daddy. I don't know what that means. Does that mean you're calling her daddy or you're calling her daddy, like calling her father? I don't know what the context is, but what I do know is that this podcast, which is wildly popular, really caters to women and their and kind of caters to a promiscuous lifestyle, a lifestyle that really is about enjoy the now. It's a lifestyle that puts career before family, singleness before anything else, and I think they do talk a lot about sexual freedom as a single female. This host of this podcast recently announced that she is now pregnant with a child with her husband. And it's interesting because a lot of conservative, I guess, political commentators are coming out and saying, whoa, what's going on? She's a hypocrite. She was selling you this idea, this lifestyle, this goal that you should achieve for yourself, being promiscuous, putting your career on top, doing everything except getting married and having children. All of a sudden, while she herself was married and is now pregnant with a child because she knows what actually fulfills her. And so it's really interesting. There's quotes even from those from the Daily Wire that said, "Tell them marriage is stupid and life is about sleeping around with strangers, then get married and have a baby." That's why she's a hypocrite. Another person said, "She tells her audience to be promiscuous and have sex with strangers. Meanwhile, she's living the white picket fence dream with a traditional family. She needs the young girls who follow her to stay single and immature. Otherwise, her entire business model collapses. She's a fraud." And so they're having a lot of responses to this, where this podcast that really idolizes that kind of lifestyle, the host the entire time was married, and now she has a beautiful baby on the way. What are your thoughts on this, Pastor Eugene? How have you come to this place in our culture today?
Yeah, I think I was talking with a friend about this before too, but once the camera turns on and you press record, everything changes.
Oh, yeah?
Vodi Bakum said this as well. We can't help that. And so some of the things that even in our podcast that we've done is, and I'll go back to what this woman did, but is that people have noticed that some of the things that we say or the way that we say it are right coded. I hope that makes sense.
What do you mean?
That means we use language or we use vernacular and we use statements that would appeal to the right.
I see.
Right, like conservative
Vodi
people.
said this?
No.
Oh, I think you said Vodi said that.
I said a friend of mine.
Oh, okay.
I think you always half listen because you're always thinking about the question. But then, so a friend of mine said this, that, what we might say is, the things that we say could be a little right-coded. An example was, because one of our friends, he was on this podcast, he said, he doesn't think a Christian could be a Democrat. I repeated that, and I kind of explained why this would make sense. Like, a Christian, you can't be a Democrat, much to his surprise, right? Like, well, I'm a Christian, I can't be any political party I want, that kind of thing. And, I suppose that if this person was a Democrat, they would have their own reasons of not wanting to be a Republican, right? And then so I think I explained in the podcast, maybe not at length, but to a degree about in the past, though, about why, Christian values cannot line up with core the Democratic Party values. Okay?
At least in that particular election is also what we said.
Well, I mean, that's the point. The point is we didn't give it that nuance. We just
right.
made a blanket general statement. And so it really is sort of like, if you're on the right, you completely agree, and then you kind of, can get pumped.
All gung-ho.
You don't always want nuance. If you nuance everything, you can nuance everything to death, and you can never move on because you're busy just nuancing. So I get it. It's difficult, and it's very difficult to talk about a complex thing in 5 to 10 minutes. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
But to get to my original point, it's that when the cameras are turned on and you're recording for an audience. You're recording for someone else that's not in the room. And so a lot of times, what I do is I'll just talk to you. So that's why I say the podcast is basically for you, because I'm just responding to you. All these basketball examples, they're all about you, right?
No.
So, the missed pass and all that stuff.
Never.
And thinking, if I can get the W, let me get some numbers and just brag about like the rebounds. That was all you.
I don't do that, actually.
Yeah.
It's
And
not
so
my forte.
you have done that, but you don't do that now.
I don't remember doing that.
Anyway, the point is, it's really difficult to say, oh, the cameras are on. I'm just going to be, this nuanced self that I have. You just point and then you kind of just explain things. Maybe you are that simple, or, maybe you are that black and white. But I would say for most people, there is some nuance attached, right? But when you're trying to get an audience, and let's say the audience grows, let's say even for us, our audience grows to like thousands instead of the hundreds, right? We have thousands, and then we have tens of thousands, and then we have, a million. The way we speak and engage will change.
It will change.
It just naturally will.
Yeah.
And so that's what naturally will happen. I'm not saying it's necessarily a good or bad thing. I'm saying this is what happens. And so let's say you have this, podcast that is predicated upon women freedoms and liberation and feminism and things like that, and all these ideas. And then anything slightly right-coded, you probably can't say or do.
Right.
Like, let's say you have some liberal senses in you, which you do.
Are you talking to me?
Yeah. But then you can't really say them here. As the audience will grow, you would probably say that less and less, because you understand your audience is completely right-coded.
But I'm not.
You don't have any liberal senses in you. Yeah, and so, as the audience grows, you can't help it, I suppose. But going back to this person, then I think people realize that once the camera turns on, I really like the question. Once the camera turns on, we're all basically theater kids, because we're just playing theater. We're not really being our true selves, which I don't know if you really can be, because the camera is for a short time. It doesn't matter if you're even on Joe Rogan for 3 hours. 3 hours is still not, 5 million hours, you know what I mean, of your entire life, right? So 3 hours is not that much either, let alone like 30 minutes or an hour, whatever she does as a podcast. I don't know. I've never listened to it, so I don't know how long. Sure. It could be 3 hours. I don't know. And so you can have this left-coded, feminist-coded like message that people love to hear, and you continue to hammer it in because you're playing this theater kid, but you're actually pretty nuanced. And it could be the case, or it could be that, it's time that she moves on. She, for whatever reason, realizes I need to move on with, this nonsense, because my window to have a child is closing, so I want a child.
I think what's refreshing, though, and I get, people are saying, what a hypocrite. On the other side of that, other people are saying, well, no, this is a good thing that she's kind of done this, that she has moved on with in her life, and now she is this way, and she's a mom now. I do think it's a good thing that she has maybe discovered the truth. I don't know. I don't know.
I see. You are much more optimistic than I am.
Maybe this will turn things around. Maybe her podcast won't be like that anymore.
I just doubt it. I just don't think so. I mean, without a true revelatory experience, like a revelation experience, I don't think people change. Even with that, people still won't change. But without that, so you're just hoping she has this revelation that she comes across.
Being a mom will change you.
But yeah, I don't think that's gonna happen. For the most part, it doesn't, because millions of dollars is millions of dollars, that kind of thing.
So again, I get why people would call her a hypocrite. I just hope that she changes.
Yeah, but I hope this can kind of put together like what it really is. Like whatever you see on TV, that's not really them. No. Even if I give you like some of the honest thoughts that I have, that's not entirely who I am too, because it's just simply impossible. It's not like I'm hiding. It's just I can't give you everything. So
Right, right,
you
right.
know a lot more than, let's say, someone who doesn't know me, right?
Sure.
But even in the end, who can really say they know someone?
Right.
And so the discovery part, we want to continue to expose and to share and to, continue to grow together as a church. And I hope that we continue to do that. But again, when it comes to like, if it's simply podcast, that's all you have, then that's the only image you have is this media personality, your micro influencer, whatever. If that's the only thing that the world knows you for, then that's kind of difficult to not be a theater kid.
Right.
And so
you have to play into the
and
mold.
so that's why I'm saying you should always have a community that you are accountable to. So if you're a Christian, you should have a church that can put you under discipline. And that's why you have, a healthier place where you can grow instead of just being a podcast or a Hollywood celebrity or whatever celebrity status you want to achieve. That's probably not the best thing to have without any kind of community accountability that is out there that God has designed for us to have.
Thank you for that. Moving right along in our current event section. Today's warfare, and we talked about warfare a little bit with David's Mighty Men, is a little different. I think, if you went back 100 years, it's a very, very different war that we're fighting today than we were fighting 100 years ago. And I mean, obviously in biblical times as well. But today's warfare, a lot of it, and we've seen this in the war in Iran, or the conflict in Iran rather, is drone warfare. And it's different. It can certainly lack the quote-unquote skill that you need in hand-to-hand combat. It may seem like you're just killing people by pushing a button. That's what it might seem like. It might seem like a technology race in which the person or the country with the highest technology, drone technology, has the best chance of not being hurt. So this drone warfare doesn't really even seem like it's warfare at all at times. It just seems like people are just shooting at each other from far away, and that's what happens. There's real casualties involved. Do Christians support this? And I know we've done a couple.
Support drone warfare?
We've done a couple episodes on just war theory. But it seems like even in war, even in battle, there is something to a human-to-human combat in which you see the other person and you are fighting for a cause. It seems like in a drone warfare, a drone comes up to you, shoots you, boom, that's it. It just takes away almost not even maybe the integrity of warfare in a sense, if I could even say.
Yeah, I can see your point.
You know what I'm saying?
I think what you're trying to get at is, with every new technological advance, we are getting more removed from the actual hand-to-hand combat.
Yes.
Hand-to-hand combat is always inevitable. You always want to be able to do some sort of physical defense in your life. But I can see why people might think it's less and less necessary over time, because you carry a gun, carry a weapon, you could carry a remote control now. You know what I mean? And so in warfare, is this necessarily good or bad? I'd be a little wary of saying attributing, let's say, a moral qualifier, not a qualifier, moral thing to it, saying this is good, this is bad.
Yeah.
I'm just saying it is currently the warfare. If you look at the Ukraine war, currently this is how the Ukraine-Russia war is being fought.
Right.
And, now it's about like, how do we use drones effectively? How do we defend from drones effectively? How do we, how people used to march or, go like army squadrons would go together, but not anymore. There's like a good distance that they walk, because if a drone blows up, it'll only be one person that dies. So they need like 50 drones to kill 50 people, that kind of thing. And then even the retaliation or the counter drone like weaponry that you would have is specifically designed just in case a drone comes at you. So they're like bullet sprays or net sprays or sound emitters that'll change the frequency of the drone, and the drone will come back with a counter to the counter.
Right.
And then, so there'll always be this back and forth. So currently we're there, with every technological evolution, we'll see warfare kind of evolve. I think the more important part is always going to be strategy. This is me. When you learn to program, I think the more important thing than learning the language is learning the algorithm. You should learn how to code, as in, like, I should know algorithms before I learn the language. And so I still think that generals will be incredibly important because warfare, demands that strategy, and whoever is better at strategy will win. That's why we kind of train ourselves with, let's say, like chess or something like that, or Go. Is it Paduk in Korean?
Yes.
And then there's the Chinese chess. What is that called? What? Shogi.
Shogi is like
What is it in Korean? What? Changi, shogi. There are all these things that people. That was a huge detour. That train us for strategy. Strategy is important.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I mean, the reason why I was asking this also is because it takes kind of humanity out of war, and I get it. We want to protect our boys. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is it takes away the humanity.
Oh
aspect.
yeah, I can see some merit in that. Seeing, like,
you know what I mean?
When you take the humanity out, we all become more sociopathic.
You're like a monster. You just press a button, and then the casualty becomes a number.
Yeah, we could do everything. You could say that about everything, like in technology. We could say that about Instagram. You become more sociopathic by just looking at people's pictures and then hating on that person just simply because of the picture. You don't even know that person, right?
Right.
Don't we hate on all these media figures without even knowing who they are? Because we're so separated from them. Come to me face to face, and it's much more difficult to hate someone with that kind of passion that we so easily do via media. Let's say, obviously, the with every technological advance, the concern is that we'll be more and more removed from that personal contact, which would make us a little bit more sociopathic. I get that. There's definitely merit in that.
Something for us to think about. I just thought maybe, because I know a lot of people have different ideas on drone warfare, and so I was wondering if there's a Christian-like viewpoint, if you will.
Yeah. I mean, in the end, it can only go so far. We are not that technologically advanced where drone warfare can take over a country. So you'll see that Russia had all these drones and this technology, but you can't take over a country with just simply drones. You need people. And without people, you can't, get to that final stage of, conquer.
Thank you for that. And for our Q&A section.
There's another jingle for that one.
There's a jingle. There's a lot of jingles on this show.
We need a beat.
What you got in the bag? What you got in the bag?
What you got in the bag?
The question is, how can I tell if my heart is bitter towards the church? What can I do?
How can I tell if my heart is bitter?
Because I think a lot of times people might think, oh, I'm just tired. I'm just stressed.
That's true.
But how can I tell if my heart is just bitter?
Actually, I had this talk with my wife the other day about how bitterness is very sneaky. It's sneaky. You don't think you're bitter until it's too late. And when it's too late, you've gone so far.
Yep.
So how can you tell that you're getting more bitter? And I talked to my wife about this, and I said one key that you have in understanding if your heart is bitter or not is how thankful you are, how it's reflected in your prayer. So if you listen to your own prayers, first of all, if you don't pray, then perhaps you're
forget
already,
about it.
Yeah.
You're bitter. No, that's not.
Could be.
Could be.
Especially if you call yourself Christian.
Right.
Could be. May not, but it could be. But if your prayers are filled with God, give me this, God, give me that, God, give me this, God, give me that, and you don't remember the good things that He's already given you, how He's already provided for you, how He will promise, or He has promised that He will provide for you, and all these things, and you give Him thanks for that, then your heart is in a pretty good place when you're thankful for the things that you've received. When you're not thankful, and then fear kind of encroaches in on your spirit, and then you're anxious, yeah, that's when bitterness comes in real hard. And if you're asking, how do I know that I don't have it toward the church? Well, apply that to the church. Are you thankful for your church? Are you praying for the church? Are you praying for its leaders? Do you venerate to a good degree? Like, are you? I shouldn't say venerate. Are you worshiping? Yeah, that's what I meant. I meant venerate. Are you worshiping to a good degree with all that you have when you're out there? Meaning you venerate the Lord with your heart, mind, body, soul, and strength. And maybe even it should go down to, do you respect your leaders that God has placed over you? Same thing with you. If you're younger and you're listening to this, do you honor your father or mother? Because that's what the Lord has commanded us to do. They're the first authority figures that we have. Even if you're older, I would ask that. Do you still honor your father or mother, even though perhaps you think you know more than them, right? Maybe you do. Intellectually, you know more than your parents, but do you still honor them? And those are things that I would probably continue to ask, especially if it's towards the church.
Right.
You know, do you respect its leaders? Do you obey?
Pray for the church.
Do you pray for the church? Do you serve the church?
Yep.
And all these things is absolutely true. If you're like, oh, I sacrifice so much, what do I do, right? And I already sacrificed too much. Well, let's list it. You know what I mean? We could list it. If you do so much, you can't count. If you can't count it in your fingers, that's great. But if you're like, I do so much already, I come out on Sundays. Okay, that's one.
It is a lot.
Coming out on Sundays.
Can be.
It can be a lot, yes. So the question is, what can I do if my heart is bitter?
Yeah.
Is that the follow-up?
So I think this is more of like a hopeful question, because if someone's asking this, they kind of have an inkling that they might be bitter, and so they want to make sure.
Yeah, I mean, if someone's asking this, then there is already hope because you're asking it. Usually
not in
bitter
our-
people.
Not in our context, 'cause I'm asking for them. So.
Yeah, but then that means they probably don't realize that they're bitter, which may put them into a place of,
Right.
put you into dire straits, I should say. Dire straits of Hormuz. But
It is dire there, though. It's
it
not, I
is pretty
shouldn't laugh
dire.
at
Yeah.
that.
I don't know
it's-
why you laugh. People
Sorry.
dying. Yeah, ships blowing up. But what can you do if you're in those dire straits? If you know someone is there, then I would say you should pray for them, and you should offer them, I suppose, some conversation, a hand in trying to get them out of the pit before they dig themselves in deeper.
Yeah.
And if you see someone really bitter, then perhaps you should, even out of, a deep concern for their welfare, call them out and talk to them. Be like, I'm a little concerned. I just want to make sure that you're okay, and it doesn't seem like you are, but what's going on? That kind of thing. And so we could definitely do that.
Thank you for that, Pastor Eugene. And I really like this new segments, and so we'll keep this going. I think it's really helpful and fun. It keeps it light and fun.
Yes, especially the joke part.
That's not an official segment. I don't know what that is, actually. It's just a soft open. But thank you, Pastor Eugene. And we thank you for listening to this episode of the Dear Church podcast. We hope and pray that this has been a blessing in your ears. Fight the good fight, finish the race, keep the faith. Peace.
Peace.